I'm Katie White, and this is By the Book, Enhancing Relationships Through Literature. Our mission here at By the Book is to connect people with books that foster personal growth and strengthen relationships with family and friends. We believe the best relationship advice is already out there, and we're here to help you discover it. Today we have my friend Daniel Aguayo. Is that how you say it?
That's right.
Daniel is a student at BYU Idaho studying business finance and plans to graduate in 2027. Daniel is from Peru, and he has lived in the States since he was 18. Daniel is my roommate's fiancé, so that's how we met, and they're planning on getting married in Italy this summer. So congratulations on that, and thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Let's do it.
Okay. Alrighty, so tell us about the book you chose and why you chose it.
The book I chose after you told me that we were going to do this podcast was The Alchemist. The reason why I chose this book, it's really interesting. I got introduced to this book because I was with my dad, like I would say maybe like 10 years ago. We stayed together at this interesting place for like a week. We're stuck there. And he gave me a challenge to read 3 books. One of them was... In a week, yeah. Wow. So it was like maybe like 200 pages a day. It was like crazy. And I thought I could do it, and I did it. But the book, it was one of those 3. It was The Alchemist that kind of stroked me a lot. And the reason why I chose this book is I think that it has everything to do with relationships and the way you see the world. Mm-hmm. And when you refer that it will be ideal for me to choose a book that maybe had an impact on me or I can use to relate to relationships or friendships, The Alchemist has changed my entire life. The way I see the world, the way I pursue things, the way I think about the journey before the results. So there's many things to say about this book, but I guess it has a major impact in my life and especially my relationships on a day-to-day basis. Okay,
perfect. Well, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about it. I listened to this book on Audible probably 2.5 years ago or something like that. Yeah. So I'm somewhat familiar with it, but since you told me, I started listening to it again, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Sweet.
Alrighty, so tell us a little bit about the author. Who is he? Do you know anything about him?
I didn't know much about the author, but when I realized that I'm going to talk about this, I try to do my research about him. His name is Paulo Coelho. And it was interesting. I was trying to see not just the nature of this author, but why he wrote this book, And it's interesting to see that he always, back in the day, he always wanted to be a writer. But his parents didn't support him. Nobody supported him because it wasn't an actual career back then. But despite all the challenges, despite all the social pressure and everything he had, he chose to pursue his dream, and he actually became one of the best ones, So I think, and he explains how The Alchemist was one of the books inspired on the journey of his career. So I thought that was really interesting, because he has a bit of his own essence on the story that he wrote in this book, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I thought that was really cool about him. So I don't know that much about him, but I know this book has part of his own essence on the story.
Okay. Love it. Okay, so you kind of already talked about how you found the book. You said it was kind of through your dad. Was it something that he recommended to you?
Yeah, he gave me 3 books, and I know the name in Spanish is actually Where's the Cheese is one of them. It's like this big. And The Alchemist is another one, and the other one's The Cow. Really funny names.
Okay.
And Where's My Cheese and The Cow is they're really tiny. But The Alchemist is a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. And those 3 books are about self-discovery and motivational, So he recommended this books to me, but he made an emphasis on The Alchemist. This is the one that's going to actually change or make an impact in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. This is not a question that I prepared, Daniel, for.
No, you're good.
But so it sounds like your dad is really interested in this kind of stuff. If that was something he was prioritizing in your life. So tell me a little bit about your dad. Why is he interested in that kind of thing? Is that part of his career or just
he's a civil engineer, so not really.
Okay.
But he has this theories, principles, stories, and books that he says that everybody has to read at one point in your life. So it's my brother and I who always been trained to kind of learn the basics of of what he has gathered in his life. You know, he has gathered principles, and he has seen where those principles come from. So he has always pushed those information to us, saying like, you have to read this book, you have to learn this, you have to apply this principle, you know. So he's always been like principle based, and he loves to read. So I guess that's one of the reasons why he like pushed me to make this 3-book week journey possible,
right.
You know. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, he loves to read. Yeah, I guess that summarizes everything, you know.
Love it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so at this point in the podcast, Daniel is going to teach us a mini lesson on a main principle that the book teaches, or one of his main takeaways, and how that relates to relationships. So I'll let you take it away from there.
There's a bunch. I guess I can do a summary of the book first.
Okay.
The book is about this kid. He's a shepherd. He's a farmer. He takes care of. He's a shepherd, you know, and he doesn't have much. He always dreams with like riches and gold and like money and things that he doesn't have. You know, obviously, you know, everybody dreams with, aspires for something bigger. And he finds out that there is an ability out there in the world, an ability that somebody called the Alchemist has, that he has a power to turn anything into gold. And he finds out like, if I have this ability, I would never lack power, money, riches, anything, you know? So I have to figure this out. And he embarks on this journey that compromises absolutely his entire reality. He leaves everything behind. And he goes and travels and travels and travels and travels. Throughout the journey, because most of the book is the whole journey that this guy goes through. His name is Santiago. And he finds out, he goes through trials, through problems. He finds love. He's robbed. He meets a king. He goes through so many different opportunities and moments and the lessons that the whole book teaches you, principle based, you know, until he gets to the Alchemist. You know, the end of the book is that he actually gets there. But he mentions a quote to the Alchemist, and this is the part that actually made me change my whole reality. And I have it right here. And actually, he says, let me just pull it up. He says, "I am afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no purpose or no reason to go on living." So when I read that, I was really kind of nervous, because if Santiago is nervous about accomplishing his dream, you know, he's nervous because he's not going to have any more purpose after that. The question goes to, is the journey more fulfilling than the actual fact of accomplishing your dream, you know? So that goes back to the importance of having a purpose in your life, you know? And sometimes, and this book at the end teaches how is that the actual power of turning anything into gold is to being able to appreciate the reality of things, the journey of the things, the process that you go through in order to accomplish something. So he realized after he got to learn this lesson that the reality that he had back in his farm with his sheep and when everything was at peace, that was the actual fulfillment, you know, that was the actual thing that was fulfilling him more than just seeking for gold and riches. So he actually went back, and the story ends exactly where he started, you know, but it took a whole process and a whole journey for him to realize and appreciate his reality. And I guess that's the whole purpose of relationships in my head, that you can live and learn lessons because of your personal experience and your journey. And that's really intelligent, you know, it's really intelligent, it's smart to live stuff for you to experience the lesson on your own, you know. But I think it's wise, it's not smart, it's wise for you to learn the lesson by somebody else's experience, you know. So you don't have to go through hell in order to appreciate heaven, you know. You can, but I think it's better to save that portion of your life and actually see other people that have been through hell in order to appreciate what you have instead of losing it and then wanting it back. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there's been so many parts and times of my life that I had to actually lose a friend in order to realize that I actually had something good going on, you know? And I guess that's not just principle related to relationships, but do you really have to go through hell in order to appreciate where you are? You know, is that really necessary, bottom line? Right. I don't think so, you know? And I don't know. What do you think? I don't want to talk the whole thing.
No, you're good. I really liked what you said about just like appreciating what you have while you have it and learning those lessons from somebody else. I think you're exactly right that is wisdom. That to be wise isn't to like necessarily have so many experiences. It isn't necessarily to travel the world, but to be wise is to learn from other people and to apply those principles to your life so you don't have to go through the hell that they went through to learn the same lesson. Yeah, it just kind of reminded me of like the saying of like you don't know what you have until you lose it kind of an idea. And I think that like humanity, like us as human beings, like we just learn that lesson again and again and again. And that's not wise, right? But like to like exactly what you're saying, like the wisdom would be to learn that from somebody else and then learn to appreciate more what you have while you do have it. So yeah, I just love that.
That's true. And the truth is that the power of turning things into gold, and I think this goes back to the lesson of the story, you know, there is a power that will allow things to turn into gold, the story says, you know.
Right.
And what the alchemist tells Santiago is that you have already accomplished this. You know, you don't have to have this power in order to turn anything into gold. And it was a metaphor, of course, you know. You have, and he goes back and reflects on the whole story and the whole journey that he's been through, you know, and how he has accomplished so many things throughout the journey, you know. So I guess my question of this book is his exact quote. I'm afraid that my dream is realized because I'll have no reason to go on living. So my question for you, Katie, I guess is, what do you think that's justifiable? Like, do you think that's a good way of living? Because I guess that introduces a new topic of the difference between fear and faith, you know? Because we can go on faith, or we can go on because of fear, you know, what is pushing me, you know? And he is not wanting to accomplish his dream, not because of faith, because out of fear of not having any more purpose, you know? Is that good? Something good? Is that something bad? What do you think?
It just, honestly, when you said that the first time, it reminded me of Tangled, when Flynn Rider's like about to die and he like says to Rapunzel, like, you are my new dream. And it's just like, he had like this dream of riches, like Flynn Rider did. Like, he wanted to be rich. He wanted to like have all the money. That's why he stole the crown, right? Yeah. And that journey led him to Rapunzel. And so he like accomplished what he wanted, but then through that, like, the love of his life, like this girl became his new dream. And so I guess like I think I definitely have experienced that own fear in my own life. Like the first experience that came to my mind was my mission. Like I did not want to finish my mission. So to our listeners, those of you who don't know, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I served a 1.5 year mission. And I served in Ecuador, and then I finished in Baltimore, Maryland, and it was just like, it was during COVID, so that's why it was split up like that. Anyways, towards the end of my mission, I was talking to the mission president who's kind of in charge of all the missionaries, and I tell him, I'm like, I would like to extend my mission. So like extending a mission is like, it's not like super rare, like people definitely do it. But anyways, what my mission president told me is, okay, so I'm going to teach a principle that is a church principle, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty mainstream in Christianity at least. Okay, so he's like, Hermana White, that's what they called me because I was a Spanish-speaking missionary. So he says, Hermana White, Sister White. He says, with tithing, does the Lord ask you to pay any more than 10%? Are you going to get extra blessings for paying more than 10%? Nope. So in the Bible, like it talks about tithing in the Bible. It talks about how it's 10%, and that's something that we still practice in our religion today. So that's what he was referring to. And I tell him, no, I'm not going to get extra blessings for paying more than what the Lord asked me to pay. And he's like, Sister White, you've been called to serve for 18 months. You have served faithfully. You've done your job. You need to continue without fear. You need to end this chapter and move along and start the new chapter. Like the best chapters end and then start anew, and you have a new dream, a new goal, right? Yeah. And I came home, and it was really hard for me to like really apply that. Like I just felt like nobody needed me anymore. That
no more purpose.
I didn't have a purpose. Yeah. And so I definitely relate to what he's saying, but I think going back to what Flynn Rider said about like, you are my new dream, like I think you just have to keep coming up with new dreams and new goals, because I think you're exactly right about the journey, that I do think it is the journey that brings us the joy. Right. Like even think about like when I was a little girl, like getting ready to go to Disneyland, like the lead up to like the excitement to like, oh, it was more exciting to like plan the trip to Disneyland than it really was even to go. Like, it's good. But anyways, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
And think about relationships. Why do people get stuck on the honeymoon phase, quote unquote, you know? And why is it so exciting? Once it becomes a routine, people just get bored and run away, you know?
Right.
Talking about the normal habit, and let's just generalization here. Now that happens specifically, but the excitement, what leads to that, the build-up, sometimes is more exciting than the actual thing, you know? And that's the truth, you know? And I think that's the difference between...
It's kind of scary.
It is scary because it takes consistency and the decision to stay after the whole of the moment, you know?
Right.
And there's one time when I was like, I think 17, 16, then I used to go to a lot of parties when I was younger, and
You're still young.
I know, and I told my mom. And that day, I had this big party coming up, and it was the hype was crazy, and a lot of friends were gonna go, and I actually felt to not go, and I didn't know why, and I told my mom proudly for the first time, "Hey, Mom, guess what? I already had permission from her, you know." I was like, I chose to not go to the party, expecting that she was going to say, "That's my son, good job," like whatever, I don't know. But she looked at me and she's like, "Why?" You know, I was like, I don't know. I just felt like maybe God told me, you know, like thinking that I was even connected to God back then, you know. But he looked at me, he's like, "Are you sure that it's God and it's not fear?" And I was not expecting that answer. I was thinking my mom was gonna be super happy, you know, about like me having like spiritual experiences, you know.
Right.
And that made me question myself, you know. Maybe it is fear, you know. And not that my mom is making me question the spirit or God at all, but it kind of made me analyze. There's a lot of decisions we take in life out of fear, you know, and we justify it in saying like it's something good to not move forward, you know, whether it's something good or bad. But bottom line, if you were not scared, if you could not fail, you know, and there's a really popular quote: if there is no chance for you to fail, what's stopping you? You know? And most of the time it's fear. And I've seen myself, even in my personal relationship, the only thing stopping me is fear, you know? And the reason why I don't want to move forward, maybe I don't want to go somewhere else or whatever it is, or I have these thoughts, is because it's scary to move forward. It's scary to actually not live in the build-up of something nice, you know? Right. That's why people jump from build-up to build-up, build-up to build-up, build-up to build-up. And it's addictive, I think so, to stay in that loop, you know, in that cycle. So I don't want to go off the rails, but I think it's really interesting to see that you will get stuck in the fear of not moving forward, because the buildup of a dream is maybe, or sometimes, more exciting than the actual dream, you know? But that's your fault, because you're, like you said, you're not creating another reality. You're not pushing yourself to higher dreams that will push you in a bigger stream of movement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of those thoughts. It's definitely got my wheels turning. I'm excited to like ponder on this more.
I guess the conclusion that we can come up to, that in my head makes sense, is that what are you doing with your life right now? If you are not moving forward, is it because of faith? Is it because God is telling you not to? Or is it because of fear? You know, it's a really important question to ask yourself, you know? If you're not moving forward because of fear, then that's your own fault. Yeah. You know, if you're not moving forward because God is maybe telling you to not move forward, I don't think God will ever tell you to not move forward. He will change your direction, but I don't think God will stop you. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, are you moving forward? Yes or no? And if you're not, is it because of fear, or is it because God has something different for you? You know?
Right.
And if you are not moving forward and you're stuck in the same place, time has passed, maybe it's because you are too comfortable where you are. You know, do you have something that scares you? Maybe that's good. Do you have something that pushes you? Maybe that's good, you know? So I guess it's a self-question to ask yourself, you know, is it because of fear? Is it because of faith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. All right, Daniel, who would you recommend this book to and why?
I would recommend this book to my fiancé.
She's actually with us.
Yeah, she's right here. She would love it. She would love it because it's a really big, also, story. It's a really cool story. You know, he meets the love of his life there, and it's just a lesson about enjoying the journey more than enjoying the process. You know, happiness is a journey. It's not a destination. You know, I guess it's really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she will love that. I know that.
Oh, adorable. That's literally so tender. Just so the audience knows, they are literally the cutest couple I've ever seen in my life. Yes. Okay. I just want to add that I would also recommend this to literally everyone. I think that's kind of what your dad was saying.
Yeah. It's a principle-based book, yeah.
Yeah, just so good. And I said, or I think I said this earlier. Maybe it was re-recording, maybe not. But just that I started listening to it again, like since you told me this was the book you were going to choose to talk about. And I'm just like, wow, I just love this. It's like so good. It just like makes you think about things that you don't think about. And so, yeah.
If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling unmotivated, if you feel that you have no purpose or that you do have purpose, I don't know. Like every single circumstance leads to, I guess the best way to learn a lesson is to relate to somebody that has been through that, you know?
Yeah.
So let's relate to Santiago. He's been through the biggest and toughest journey of his life and maybe our lives, you know? So read the book. You'll love it. You'll find purpose and you'll understand the difference between faith and fear.
Perfect. Okay, is there anything you want to add before we wrap up?
God is good. That's it.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you, Daneil, for joining us. Thank you to our audience for joining us today on Buy the Book. We hope that you've enjoyed your time with us. I know I've enjoyed my time talking to Daneil today. The link to the book on Amazon and Audible will be in the show notes. Let us know in the comments if you end up reading the book and your main takeaways and how you've applied the book to your life. This podcast will also be available in Spanish at a future date, also with Daneil. So we're super, super excited about that.
Super excited.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.